Good evening, everybody. Just before we begin tonight's presentation, if somebody could please comment in the chat box just to confirm that you can hear me okay. Once I've had confirmation that you can hear me without any problems, I'll start the presentation. But if somebody would just be ever so kind as to confirm that just with a quick yes in the Q&A on the right-hand side, or to like one of the comments that I've already written, just so I know that you're hearing me properly and there are no sound issues. Once I've had that confirmed, then we'll begin. Thank you. Fantastic. Thank you to that person for the thumbs up there, much appreciated. So before we begin, my name is Gemma Callow. I am the Communications Manager for the Brumbury's programme, leading on the delivery of the Clean Air Zone. I am working from home this evening, so my apologies if there's any background noise. I have done my best to eliminate that. If you have any questions during the course of the presentation, please put them in the right-hand side in the chat box, and I'll do my very best to answer them for you at the end. But with that in mind, we'll get underway now. Just to confirm, this is being recorded, and we will circulate a copy of the recording afterwards for you to share with family and friends, etc., if you so wish. So we'll begin the slideshow. There we go. Hopefully you can see that. So Birmingham is introducing a clean air zone because poor air quality and air pollution has been declared a national health emergency. Every year, between 28 and 36,000 people across the UK die from conditions which are exacerbated by poor air quality. And in Birmingham alone, up to 900 people every year die from conditions linked to air pollution, such as asthma, heart disease, lung disease, cancer, etc. I won't go through all the statistics on screen, just to point out that the vulnerable and the most deprived, so the elderly, and people who live closer to the roads are more adversely affected, as are our children. They are smaller, they're closer to the ground and closer to those exhaust fumes, so they inhale 3 times as much air pollution than we do as adults, which has an impact on their development, and they are 4 times more likely to have reduced lung function when they become adults. So prior to COVID, we undertook some research into how people travel into Birmingham city centre, and we realised that 50% of all journeys into Birmingham are undertaken by private vehicle, by private car. And of those journeys, every single day, 250,000 of them were for less than 1 mile. That's a 20-minute walk, 10-minute cycle ride. So what the Clean Air Zone is intending to do in the first instance is to deter high polluting vehicles from entering the city centre, but also to get those people who are taking those journeys, nipping to the shops and back, that are less than 1 mile, to consider walking, cycling or taking public transport to reduce the number of vehicles that are on our roads. So we are tasked or instructed by government to introduce the Clean Air Zone, and Clean Air Zones will be introduced across the UK as we tackle this issue of dangerous air pollution. So last week, Bath became the first Clean Air Zone outside of London to go live, and we will be next, and we are launching on the 1st of June this year. Each local authority has the responsibility of setting the boundary for the zone and for deciding what clean air zone to introduce. In Birmingham, we have chosen to implement a category D clean air zone. So that means we will be charging all high polluting vehicles, including private cars. It's important to stress at this point that a clean air zone is not the same as a congestion charge. So in London, where there is a congestion charge, all vehicles are charged to drive within a certain area. In Birmingham, the Clean Air Zone means that only the most high polluting vehicles will be charged, and we estimate that was going to be about 1 in 4 vehicles. So the Clean Air Zone is the blue area that you can see on screen. It's everywhere within the A4540 Middleway, but not the Middleway itself. So if you are in a compliant vehicle that meets the emission standards, you do not need to take any action. So come the 1st of June, if your vehicle meets those emission standards, you can drive through the blue area and you do not have to pay any charges. You do not have to take any action. However, if you are in a non-compliant vehicle, you can drive around the A4540 Middleway, absolutely fine. But the second you enter the blue area, you are entering the clean air zone in a non-compliant vehicle, and from the 1st of June, you will be subject to daily charges. Those daily charges are £8 a day for cars, taxis and vans, and £50 a day for HGVs, coaches and buses. It's important to note that a day is midnight to midnight. It is not 24 hours from when you enter the zone. During that midnight to midnight time frame, you can enter and leave the zone as many times as you want for a single charge. However, if you cross that midnight threshold by, say, driving in at 10 p.m. and leaving at 3 a.m, you will be subject to 2 charges. Now, you'll be able to pay online or over the phone using the government payment system. And you can pay 6 days before the day of your visit, the day of your visit, or 6 days after. So there's a 13-day payment window in total. You must pay within those 13 days, otherwise you will be subject to a fixed penalty notice of £120. That's reduced to £60 if paid within 14 days. We have installed 300 signs on the approach and on the boundary of the zone, warning people that they are about to approach a chargeable area. That's the only warning you will get. You won't get a text or an email to say that your vehicle is entered and you are due to make a payment. The onus, the same as London, is on you as a driver to know that you've entered, and is on you as a driver to make the payment. So the big question is, will I be charged, and what is a compliant vehicle? So the easiest thing to do is to visit the Brumbreeze website, and from there is a link to the government vehicle checker where you can input your registration details and it will tell you whether or not you are subject to the charge. What we're looking for though are certain emission standards to be met. So if you have a Euro 4 petrol vehicle or better, you will not be charged. This information is in your V5C logbook. If you have a Euro 6 diesel or better, you will not be charged, nor will you be charged if you have a gas Euro 6, fully electric vehicle, fully hydrogen fuel cell, or a hybrid electric that meets those petrol and diesel standards referenced earlier. You can see on screen we have some dates. Those are a point of guidance. So most Euro 4 petrol vehicles began to come into common circulation from 2006 onwards. And for Euro 6 diesel, most of those vehicles were manufactured from September 2015 onwards. I must stress those dates are only a guidance. It is the Euro standard that we are looking for. So, contrary to popular belief, the Clean Air Zone is not intended to be a money-making project. If we make no money from this scheme, then that's great, because it means we have achieved our objective of deterring all high-polluting vehicles from entering the city centre and therefore improving air quality. That is our objective. However, we do understand that particularly in the early days, we will make some money from this scheme, and so we have to reinvest that money in transport-related projects and policies. We cannot use it to support the council's general budget, and we cannot use it for things such as council services, including bin collections or repairing the floozy in the jacuzzi. So some of these schemes that have already been identified to project this money into are implementing controlled parking zones around the border of the A4540 Middleway. That's to protect residents and stop people dumping their cars on the outside of the zone and then walking in. Funding for a hydrogen bus pilot scheme that will fund 20 buses and comes into effect later this year. And also investing in city centre pedestrianisation and an enhanced programme of active and sustainable travel to make walking and cycling safer and more appealing to do so. So again, that supports those journeys that I mentioned earlier that are being driven for less than 1 mile, encouraging people to get out of their car and walk and cycle where they can. In introducing the Clean Air Zone, we know that it is going to have an impact that is intended to happen, obviously, because we need to tackle air pollution levels. But we undertook a consultation in 2018 to ascertain who needed that little bit of extra support to deal with the implementation of the zone. That consultation received over 10,000 responses. It was the highest number of responses we've ever had to a consultation. And from that information, we were able to determine a series of exemptions that can be made available. So if you live within the clean air zone and you own a non-compliant vehicle, again, I must stress, if your vehicle is compliant, you do not need to take any action. But if you live in the zone and you own a non-compliant vehicle, you can apply for a temporary exemption permit, which will mean that from the 1st of June, you can drive that non-compliant vehicle for up to 2 years without paying the charge. For people on this call, what's probably more relevant is those who live outside of the zone but work within it. So if you are the registered keeper of that vehicle, and it must be in your name, not in a partner's name or a friend's name or relatives, if you are the registered owner of that vehicle and you work at least 18 hours a week within the clean air zone and you earn less than £30,000 a year, you can apply for a temporary exemption permit for up to 1 year. And again, that's 1 year from when the zone goes live. And again, you can drive your vehicle without having to pay the charges. We also have exemptions available for commercial vehicles which are registered within the zone. I won't go into too much detail on those. And to support people visiting the 3 out of hours medical practices within the zone, that being the Children's Hospital, Atwood Green and Badger Medical, we will be implementing a voucher scheme so that people who visit those centres in non-compliant vehicles can collect a voucher from the medical practice and redeem them online to avoid any charges. Now, bearing in mind the audience on this call, I'm going to talk in a little bit more detail about the temporary exemptions for workers. So exemptions are now open to apply for. You can apply today. We would recommend you applying as soon as possible. We know that at the moment we can turn those exemptions around fairly quickly and you'll be covered from the 1st of June onwards. As we get closer to the zone, we're going to have more applications coming in. We're going to be busier. We won't be able to turn them around as quickly. You need to have been approved for an exemption to ensure that come the 1st of June, you're not paying those charges. So please, if you're eligible, apply today. So again, the criteria that you need to meet, you need to live outside of the zone and work at least 18 hours a week at an address within the zone, and you need to earn less than £30,000 a year. That threshold of £30,000 was chosen following consultation with partners, including the Children's Hospital, where it was established that 80% of all staff there earn less than £30,000 a year. And at the time, the median earnings for the city were 27 to 28,000. The vehicle must be, like I say, in your name, not in a partner's name. And you can drive that vehicle then from the 1st of June for a year without having to pay the charges. What you need to provide to us is you need to go again onto the Brumbury's website and you can apply for an exemption. And we need to see evidence of you being the registered owner of that vehicle. We need to see evidence of your employment and we need to see evidence of your salary. So the easiest thing, the most common thing that vehicle owners submit is a copy of their V5C logbook that just confirms you are the registered keeper of that vehicle. And then what we need from you, and there is a template on the website that you could share with employers, is a letter on headed paper from your employer stating where you work, who you are, and how many hours a week you work. We need that information. And then finally, to prove your earnings, we need a copy of your P60 or your most recent payslip. Aside from those exemptions, there are some other exemptions that are in place. These are considered to be national exemptions. So if you are the owner of a motorcycle, motorcycles are automatically exempt, as are show vehicles, which are things like fairground vehicles. Historic vehicles which are over 40 years old will not be charged. Normal specialist vehicles such as emergency services vehicles, recovery vehicles, etc. And community and school transport, so things such as ring and ride that are not for profit, they will not be charged. What's important to note is that blue badge holders are not automatically exempt. However, if your vehicle has disabled or disabled passenger tax class, that's tax class 85, then you are exempt from the Clean Air Zone charges. You need to be in receipt of certain benefits to have that classification, and that classification will be stated in your logbook. You can visit the DVLA website for more information to see whether or not you're eligible for that disabled passenger tax classification. In addition to the temporary exemptions, we did receive a pot of money, 35 million from the government. And again, that's some of these schemes are open now. So for our taxi drivers who are licensed with Birmingham City Council, they can apply for a share of £15 million to either upgrade or replace their vehicles to make them compliant. We also have a £10 million pot of funding for small and medium-sized enterprises in the West Midlands with HGVs and coaches. They can receive money to upgrade their vehicles or purchase or lease new vehicles or move to alternative premises. We help with the relocation costs there. But again, what's probably most relevant to the people on the call this evening is the scrappage and mobility scheme. So again, if you meet the credentials of being a worker that is eligible for a temporary exemption and a couple of other pieces of criteria which are stated on the website, namely for how long you've owned the vehicle, then you can apply for the scrappage and mobility scheme, which will enable you to scrap your non-compliant vehicle through an accredited, registered dealership, details of which are going to be announced this week of who that is. And then you will receive £2,000 in credit towards a compliant vehicle or £2,000 in credit towards public transport travel card scheme. So that £2,000 credit towards a compliant vehicle would need to be spent with the nominated dealership. Again, details being announced this week. You cannot apply for that yet, but you can go on the Brumbury's website to get the full details. And if you are interested, register an expression of interest and you'll be the first to be notified when there are any key announcements relating to that scheme. So to put it into context, the Clean Air Zone is not being delivered on its own. It is the catalyst for change, but will be followed by other policies being implemented by the council. One of those is the transport plan. So that was consulted on last year, and it has 4 big visions or 4 big moves that it's looking to implement. That's reallocating road space, again, taking the road away from private vehicles and prioritising active travel, public transport, sustainable travel. Transforming the city centre through pedestrianisation that I mentioned earlier. Active travel through implementation such as low travel neighbourhoods. And managing parking demand. So any free parking that the council currently offers will be replaced with chargeable parking, again to try and make the concept of driving private vehicles into the zone less appealing. Another ambition for the city is its Route to Zero programme, that is to be net carbon zero by 2030. The Clean Air Zone again is seen as a step towards achieving that vision. And to support all of this, we are expanding the city's electric vehicle charging points. Excuse me if you can hear the dog in the background. We are working to install 300 electric vehicle charging points across the city over the next couple of years. We are introducing the first of those charging points over the next few weeks, and that will again help with encouraging the more sustainable forms of transport such as EV cars coming into the city. So that's everything with regards to the presentation. Our contact details are there on screen. The brumburys.co.uk is where you can find out more. You can check your vehicle, apply for an exemption if you're eligible, and register an interest in the scrappage scheme. If you have any questions that are not answered on the website, please contact the team directly at cleanair@birmingham.gov.uk. There are a team of us who monitor that inbox 9 to 5 every day, so please get in touch. And if you have any questions, I will now have a look through the chat side and answer any questions that you have. Thank you. Okay. I am a parent that travels through the Clean Air Zone to drop off and collect a student at the university. How can I apply to the scrappage scheme to explore upgrading my vehicle to a compliant one for travel through the Clean Air Zone? So thank you for that question. The scrappage scheme is only open to workers. So to be eligible for that scheme, you would need to live outside of the zone and work within it. Dropping off a student at the university would not qualify, nor would you qualify for an exemption for those reasons. You would need to meet the criteria for an exemption of being either a resident or worker. So if you are only driving in the zone to drop off a student at university, you would not be eligible for either the scrappage scheme or a temporary exemption permit. Are there any other questions?
Yes, there is. I've just published that one.
Thank you, Kanchan. If we have applied for an exemption previously, do we have to apply again, or will the existing application still be valid? Great question, thank you. So when you created your account for an exemption, you can go back in there at any time and it will give you an update on your application status. So if you go into your account and it says you were approved previously, that approval will remain in place. So you do not need to reapply. Another one, okay. I work in the city centre. I am unable to obtain an employment letter due to security reasons. I can provide a V5 document. How can the vehicle owner apply for the scrappage scheme to explore upgrading my cars? Is it possible to speak to someone on the phone? Thank you to that person for your question. If you can please email the Clean Air Zone with a contact number, a daytime contact number, and just an overview of what you've just said there in the chat. If you can please send that through to the team, somebody will be able to give you a ring and discuss your concerns. Thank you. See if there's any more. Okay, I make it 7:22 at the moment. I'll give it to 7:24, see if any more questions come in. Otherwise, I'll give you half an hour of your evening back. I'm sure you can all find something lovely to do. But please do share this messaging with people. Please make them aware. Please encourage all your family, friends and colleagues to go online, check the website, check if they'll be charged and check if they're eligible for any exemptions or support. And also, please do come to us with any questions if they're not answered on the website. Thank you to that person. I must also add, we are running webinars all the way through until the launch, similar to this evening. So the details of that are on the Brumberries website. Please get people to sign up to them if they have questions, or send them the link to this so they can watch back in their own time. I'll just give it one more minute, and if there's no further questions, then I'll end the webinar. I'm just going to go on mute for a moment. Oh, another question. Regarding the scrappage scheme, will compliant cars have to be brand new vehicles from the dealership, or will compliant second-hand vehicles be available from the dealership? Okay, thank you. So that you don't need to be purchasing a brand new vehicle. No, they do just need to meet the compliance standards. The dealership that we've appointed, all their vehicles are Clean Air Zone compliant. So there'll be a range to choose from. But no, they do not need to. You don't need to go out and buy a brand new electric or hybrid vehicle. It just needs to meet those emission standards. Will the bus companies be paying for every bus every day? Yes, if their vehicles are not compliant, then yes, they absolutely will be. National Express, we've worked with very closely. They've updated their fleet, so there will be no non-compliant vehicles driving through. Should also point out that Birmingham City Council are not exempt from this either. So our staff, our vehicles, if they do not meet the Clean Air Zone standards, and we do not qualify, if we do not qualify for anything other than the ordinary exemptions, we do not get any special treatment. So Birmingham City Council is subject to the same charges and conditions as everybody else. Are there any more questions? Okay, I'll give it till 26, and then if there's nothing else, keep saying this and they keep dripping in, which is great, but yeah, I'll give it another minute. What's another one? Will there be any discounted travel using bus, tram and train during the introduction of the CAS to encourage uptake of public transport? We don't control public transport, so we can't set the prices. However, we are working very closely with the with Transport for West Midlands, National Express, etc. They are currently in the process of revising their ticket offerings because of COVID and the potential change in how we work in the future. So at the moment, we have not heard of any plans, but I must stress that we're not responsible for public transport pricing. So that's something that would need to be raised with them directly. Thank you to that person for your thanks. I hope you found it helpful. Another one. And Mr. Stark, can you copy your PowerPoint in here, please? This is being recorded, so we can send you a link to the recording after this. It will be later in the week. We will send an email with a link to this recording on it. So anything you've missed at the beginning, you'll be able to watch back. Thank you. I'm glad you found it helpful. Okay, I think we might have come to a close. Please check out Brumbury's. Like I say, check if you'll be charged, check if you're eligible for an exemption. It is only 1 in 4 vehicles subject to the charge. So just check. If you are compliant, you do not need to take any action, but please do share the message with as many people as possible. Help them to get ready, help us to help you. Oh, here we go. Another question. Thank you. With recent events regarding safety of lone people working or travelling on public transport, what can be done to make not travelling by car safer? It seems an impossible task. Yes, and I understand some of the events that you're referring to. This is something that we obviously are considering as a council, and some of the measures that I mentioned earlier with regards to city centre improvements will hope to tackle some of these concerns. So by investing in making pedestrianisation safer, so well-lit areas, they become well-used, reduces the risk of people walking through areas on their own. It's a bigger issue, not just one that we can tackle on our own. It's something that as a council we are working with partners to try and improve that, but I think it's a challenge for every city across the country at the moment, and not something that we're not unaware of. Will the pricing of the Clean Air Zone be renewed annually? No. So as it stands, we've heard absolutely nothing about the pricing or the boundaries changing. When the Clean Air Zone was initially set to go live, it has been delayed by 18 months, but we were looking at 3 years, so there is nothing expected to change. Again, I must stress, this is mandated by government. The government set the emission standards, we set the pricing, but the government set the emission standards, so anything to do with that would be out of our control. But if there were any changes in terms of pricing and things, that would have to be subject to a public consultation. But no, there are no plans at this point to do anything to change the pricing. Thank you, super helpful and informative. Thank you for your feedback. Okay, I think that is everything this time. So thank you again for your time. I do appreciate it. I know there are other things you could be doing with your evenings. So thank you for taking the time to talk to me. Please get in touch with any questions, but check out Brumbury's. Stay safe and have a good evening. Take care. Goodbye.